This week on the Computer Chronicles, a visit to the MacWorld Expo in Boston. We'll show you the new super-fast Power Macs and the latest Mac clones. You'll see why netheads are turning to the Macintosh as the platform of choice for designing websites. And it wouldn't be a MacWorld without cool new games. All this and more coming up next on the Computer Chronicles. One of the applications that really eats up this faster processing power is digital video. And Apple showed off a new easy-to-use video editing system called Avid Cinema that takes advantage of the performer's new speed and power. Avid Cinema uses a simple interface to lead you through the video editing process, allowing almost anyone to become a skillful video producer.
Breakthroughs in digital video, this new thing from Avid that Apple's bundling. It's a complete video system for like $500 for the home user. It's everything you need. You plug your camcorder in, you dump the video, you edit it, you change it around, you play with it, you add some music, you dump it back out to tape, all for $500. It's the holy grail.
While Apple is cutting back on the number of Macintosh models it will offer, there are more Mac systems to buy than ever before, thanks to the new Mac clones being offered by companies like Power Computing, Daystar, and Umax.
I'm really hot for Mac clones. I think it's good for the Mac OS. I think it's good for the business. I think it's good for the Mac community to have choices. Choices are good, so I'm really up. I think the power towers are great. I think the Umax dual processor equipment's cool. I think the Daystar multi-process is cool. I think the fact that we're going to have IBM and Motorola coming on the scene soon is really cool.
Power Computing showed MacWorld attendees that they could not only turn out Power Mac compatibles, but they could also rival Apple in spectacular PR. This was a bungee jumping apparatus just outside the Boston World Trade Center, set up for use by attendees and sponsored by the Power Computing Company. The bungee jumping was the lure to get attendees to find out more about the new 225 megahertz Mac clone called the Power Tower Pro 225. Power Computing says it is the fastest personal computer in the world. It's aimed at high-performance users, obviously, such as graphic artists and programmers. The prices will start at around $5,000.
Hey everybody, it's Ron with Ron's Computer Videos. I want to thank you for spending time with us here this afternoon. Got a great guest, as always. Let's get right to it. He is a retired columnist, technology evangelist, and the author of dozens of books about the Macintosh, iPad, and iPhone. Bob LeVitus. Dr. McIntosh, how are you today, sir?
I'm excellent. 93 books total.
I know. It is its own library, that's for sure.
I can't even believe I wrote that many books.
Well, I can because I own quite a few of them. These are just the ones I could find.
Well, those are three of my favorites. Those are the Stupid books and Mac Underground book.
Yeah, I even still have the disc with this one. So,
but do you have a Mac that will accept that disc?
Yep. Yes, I've held on to some of those Macs too. But
well, I always kept one that could play that stuff.
Oh yeah, I just remember. I think I got introduced to Talking Moose by one of these books.
Oh yeah, the first one.
Mm-hmm. So
the Moose made me do it. The Moose made me do it. That's what I always said. I didn't want to write stupid Mac tricks, but the Moose told me it was a winner. And the Moose was right. That book sold more copies than any of the Dummies books.
Oh yeah, it's kind of, and we'll definitely talk about this. But this came out at a time where there wasn't really like internet for normal people. You had to have an AOL subscription, or you had to be on Genie or something like that to get to the download section to be able to get some of these things. So for a lot of folks, including me, living in the middle of the Midwest with none of those things, this was really great because it was my way to kind of get access to that world.
Well, I used to go to user group meetings when I first got my first Mac in 1985 or something. I used to go to LAMG, Los Angeles Mac Group meetings, with a handful of blank discs to go in the back and take advantage of the copy, shareware, and freeware program. Because there was no internet. It's like if you wanted cool stuff like that, you had to go to a meeting somewhere and bring your own discs, and it was very primitive.
Yeah.
Considering we can now download the entire library of MACzine in 30 seconds.
It's true. I mean, imagine being somebody who had never seen Eric Shapiro's The Grouch for the first time and just emptying the trash on a random machine at a user group meeting and having that, on you. So that's the
Oh,
world.
I love trash. I love
That's
it because it's trash. So we had to include all that stuff. And I am so, to this day, so happy with the shareware and freeware communities because nobody said no. I called
yeah.
people up and said, I want to include your thing in my book, Stupid Mac Tricks. And nobody turned me down. For a couple of them, we couldn't determine who had written the original, and I hired a guy, Bob Shoemaker, to recreate them. So do you remember, I think it was called Bomber.
Mm-hmm.
The icon on your desktop was a bikini babe, right? And if you double clicked it, it put the bomb dialog up. But when you tried to click restart, the restart button jumped out from under the mouse,
Yes.
right? Couldn't find the person who wrote it in the first place. So we hired a guy to write a version of it and basically said, whoever actually created this, we owe you one,
Yeah.
We're sorry we couldn't find you and pay you or at least give you recognition.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
there's so
that was
many,
fun, and you couldn't get stuff like that. So that came out for Father's Day that year, like 1992, and well, my BMW was named Stupid because that book bought it for me.
Very nice. Well,
And my next BMW is called Steve because Power Computing bought it for me. Steve Kong, the CEO.
well,
I always named BMWs after events in my life.
That's nice. It's one way to remember how you got it. That's for sure.
I don't do that anymore. I'm a Subaru driver now.
Oh, well, I don't blame you. It's much safer
In retirement.
Right?
Oh yeah,
and the insurance is much cheaper.
And I live in a state where snow is a thing. So
yeah. Well, you weren't always Dr. Macintosh. Or Dr. Mac. There was a time before that. And so kind of in those early days, you were in marketing, and what was it that kind of came across your desk or came into your life or that you saw that told you that, number one, the Macintosh was going to be the future of personal computing and that you needed to be a part of that?
So I worked at an ad agency. My degree was in marketing and advertising, and I wanted to grow up to be, Don Draper. Do you ever watch?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be the ad guy. I wanted to be the ad agency account guy that got to take everybody out for expensive meals and ride around in limos. And I thought that was a great life. So I studied for that. And I went to work for an ad agency in Los Angeles and became an account executive. And in 1984, Apple came out with the Mac. And in 1985, they came out with the LaserWriter. And the Aldus Corporation, which got absorbed by Adobe later, came up with a program called PageMaker. And PageMaker was a page layout program, the first of its kind. And it could do what I called agency grade typesetting. So it could set type in multiple fonts and output to a machine called a Linotronic 1200, which cost, I don't know, 60,000 or 80,000, some crazy number that no human could afford. You'd go somewhere and pay someone to output. But it was possible. So at the ad agency, we were paying, I'd say, $100 to $200 a sheet to have type set by a typesetter. And it would come back, and the guys, the art guys would, let me see if I've got one here. I think I do. They would go after it with one of these. That's an X-Acto knife. And they would cut the little pieces of text apart and reassemble them with glue. And when they got it just right, they'd send it to the printer. And it took many hours, and it cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And PageMaker let you do all of that in your little Mac and output it to one for testing, for proofs, to a $6,000 printer that sat on your desk. And when it was right, you would get the exact same thing. This is called PostScript. You would get the exact same thing from the $60,000 high resolution output device. And at that point, the type looked as good to me as hundreds of dollars of typesetting for $1 or $2. So I went to my agency that I worked for, and I said, you guys, you're missing the boat. We could take this typesetting in-house and make $1 million, $2 million a year and be way out in front because we could reset stuff in hours rather than days. For all our retail clients, this is an incredible breakthrough because they change their ads daily for the newspapers, and you have to order new type and wait for the typesetter to set it and then send it over. And then if it's not right, cut it up and reassemble it, or order more type at high cost, $200 a page. I said, you guys, PostScript is the future. All publishing is going to be done in this PostScript thing. Stop wasting money. Let's go in-house with all of our typesetting. We can do all of our print ads. We can do part of our online, all of our video. This is all stuff that you can now do on a $2,500, well, sort of a $2,500 computer.
Yeah.
Mine, by the time I was done with it, was at least 10,000 because I filled it with RAM. So RAM on a Mac Plus, it came with 1 megabyte, but you could expand it to 4, and that cost $2,500. It didn't have a hard disk. So you could expand it to 20 megabytes, not kilobytes, not gigabytes, not terabytes, but megabytes, 20 megabytes for $2,500. And then it had a 68,000 processor, which you could bump up to a 68020 and double the speed of your computer for $2,500. So I bought the Mac. It was $2,495. And I had spent $10,000 before I even bought my external monitor.
Yeah.
But at that time, the same equivalent typesetting system would have been 6 figures, in 100,000 plus. So for my, I don't know, maybe 10 grand, I could do what would cost you 100 or 200 plus 3 skilled technicians and a whole room for the Linotronic machine.
Oh, yeah.
I could do all of that at my desk with this little Mac Plus. They didn't buy it. And so I quit. And I said, I'm going to get a Macintosh, and I will figure out a way to make it pay for my dinner. And I said to my wife, hey, honey, I quit my job. I'm buying a Macintosh. We're going to make tons of money. How exactly? No, I'm not sure yet, but trust me.
Yeah. We'll figure that part out next.
And I went out and I did menus for all the Chinese restaurants in my neighborhood and all the fast food joints and all the takeout joints and anybody that needed posters to put up. I did some band promotion. I did a couple of print ads for like local one-man retailers. Anything I could sell that required typesetting, I would sell. And one day I got a phone call from a guy who said, no, I called him up and I said, hey, guess what? I got this new computer and I can do all your market research now. I got this new thing called Multiplan. Multiplan became Excel.
Right.
And all of a sudden you could do things that market research needed, like crosstabs. But you could do them on a personal computer. You actually could do it before that. You could do that on an Apple too, but it wasn't easy with VisiCalc. And I knew this. And I said, hey, look at this. I can do market research now. So I called this guy up that we had done market research for before. I said, hey, I can do market research for half the price we charged you last year. And he said, that's great, except I have a bigger problem. My editor-in-chief just quit. I need an editor-in-chief that understands Macintoshes. And I said, how much does that position pay? And he named a number, and I said, I'll take it. And that's how I became a Macintosh writer.
That's great. And that's with MACzine, right?
Yes. So I became the editor-in-chief of MACazine. And the guy that hired me was apparently in hock to the printer, the guy that printed the copies every month. And eventually, the printer took over operation of the magazine, and the publisher was out. And the printer was a really nice guy, but he was in Austin, Texas, and he said, if you want to continue being the editor-in-chief, you have to move to Texas. Now, I'm a Los Angeles. I grew up in Chicago. I lived in Los Angeles from 15 to 30. I did not see myself being a Texan. But he wined and dined me and convinced me I would like living in Austin, and bless him, because I did enjoy living in Austin a lot. So he moved us there, and that was great for like 3 years. And then MacWorld bought MacZine, and they bought MacZine for one reason. They just wanted to absorb our subscriber list. Because that would allow them to charge a lot more for ads. So we had about 100,000 subscribers at the time. They had a few 100,000. So we bumped them up by some percent, and that was good for them. And they offered me a job, and for a couple of years I wrote for them. But I always felt like they were very corporate, and they tended to, I don't know, there's supposed to be a Chinese wall between advertising and content and editorial. And at MacWorld, I never felt like that existed. I felt like, no, you will say nice things about Photoshop because they're a big advertiser. They said, no, I hate Photoshop. I'm going to say nice things about Canvas. They said, no, you can't do that because they don't advertise. It's like, really? That is a problem for me. So MacUser seemed to be a lot less political about stuff like that. I asked specifically, could I say I don't use that piece of shit because it costs $700 and I can get everything I need for this for $100? And MacUser said, that's the kind of content we want. So I wrote there for many years, many columns. I was a help folder columnist with Andy Anetko, and then with Chris Breen. I wrote the game folder for at least a couple of years. That's a tough gig too, by the way, writing a game column. That means you got to play games all the time. And I thought that's great until you have to do it. It's like, oh man, I have to go play that stupid Frog on the Road game again. But I thought it would be great, and I was really into it. But I'm not cut out for corporate life, and it turned out MacUser got a publisher who I had dealt with in my agency life, and he hated me. So I got fired from MacUser, and not long after, Mike Rosenfeld came to me and said, hey, you want to be the Guy Kawasaki of clones? Well, yes, I would. That sounds like a really good gig to me. And so I was the power computing, I hate to say shill. I was their front man.
Evangelist. That's
their
evangelist. Term. Right.
Yes. So I spread the word for power computing for a couple of years. And then power computing got acquired by Apple.
Yep.
And it was a weird thing because we were building Dell clones
Yeah.
with Motorola processors in them. We basically took the whole Dell production technique. We built them from scratch on an assembly line. You ordered what you wanted. You could order the amount of memory you wanted. You could order the size hard disk you wanted. You could order any monitor you wanted. You could order an Ethernet card. You could order a fast Ethernet card. You could order a video card. You could order monitors from us, everything. So while Apple was selling closed boxes at stores that were configured one way and one way only, we were able to offer a wide variety of flavors of Mac. And I say ours were better. You know, I say we built better, faster, cheaper machines.
Well, ultimately, there was only one company, one clone company that got reabsorbed. Everybody else would just basically have their licensing cut. So I think it's a backhanded compliment maybe from Apple that they were like, you guys are too good. We need to bring you back.
And they could have shut us down. Basically, the offer, as I understood it, was this. You can either go out of business because we will not approve any new designs for the next 2 years. Everything will take a year or more, and you'll choke and die. Or you can accept our $100 million offer, turn over all your intellectual property, which the thing they wanted was our order processing system, our ability to custom configure. They didn't do a lot of due diligence because it was built in FileMaker Pro. and we had it cracks me up. The management there thought we needed big iron. So they had invested millions in IBM 360s and all this, room-sized processing shit. But the whole order entry system ran on multi-user FileMaker Pro, and it wasn't connected to all this other shit. It couldn't even talk to it. So I guess what they got was the blueprint for the Apple online store. It's like, this is the paths that these things take. They rebuilt the whole thing in, I forgot what it was at the time, but some other, like Ruby on Rails. They just redid the whole thing, but they basically followed our blueprint. And today you can go online and order a Mac with however much RAM you want. Well, however much RAM they'll allow you to order it with.
Right, yeah.
And the same thing with discs. But, it's like now it's a common thing. And I don't think there's any computer maker that just ships boxes.
No.
And with no options.
Yeah, I mean, it's just smart because all you're doing by having like a set thing where it's basically like, if it's expandable, like the only thing that makes sense would be to keep those sales in-house. Why would you ever create a secondary market for things to support your items if you could be the first point of sale on those things? I mean, the very last Macintosh I ever bought was a 7275. And there were no options to buy additional RAM. You bought, and it came with 8 megs of RAM, and that was it. If you wanted to get a RAM upgrade, if you wanted like storage upgrades, you wanted to get a zip drive, you wanted to get, well, that might have been predated zip drive a tiny bit, but if you wanted to get
external though.
Yeah, you had to, you're going somewhere else for all that. It's just like you're leaving money on the table because you already know that publishers, people that are using these machines for business are going to be dumping that stuff in there. At least offer like a reasonably priced alternative.
Upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was the whole idea with power computing, was get what you need from the get-go. You don't order it and then have to tear out the old RAM and replace it with third-party RAM in a sketchy operation that most people wouldn't want to undertake.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So, Apple made it very difficult We didn't. We were the opposite. We used off-the-shelf hardware wherever we could. Our power supplies were the same power supplies that Gateway was using and Dell was using. These are proven parts.
Yeah.
And they don't need to be proprietary. There is no reason Apple needed to design their own power supplies and have them sourced in China.
Right.
Not when you can buy off-the-shelf power supplies that are better for less money. But Apple had a we made it, kind of attitude, and they tried to re-engineer just about everything. Sometimes they were successful. I think in storage they were. They pioneered the super drive and the 1.4, was it megabyte, 1.4 megabyte dual-sided floppy disks.
Yeah.
These
Well, all
were
those
Apple
partnerships with Sony,
innovations.
Yeah.
Yes, but Apple introduced them first and pushed them. CD-ROM
Yeah.
drives, and
Yeah.
Apple for a long time pushed innovation in storage, but at some point they lost control. And with these SSDs, people say to me, "How much SSD should I buy when I buy my new Mac?" And I say, "You have to buy the biggest one they'll let you buy, because you can't fix it after. You
Right.
can't replace it with a bigger drive, and it's a pain in the ass to store stuff externally. Most people aren't capable. I'm sorry, but I know. I always think, could my mom do that? No, my mom could not move her photos library to an external disk and figure out all the things you need to do to make that work. Not a chance.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't have a big enough disk, she's hosed.
Yeah.
So I think Apple misses the boat on some of this stuff. On the other hand, external storage is so cheap and fast now.
It's a different world, that's for sure. Don't tell that to my stack of 80 meg Scuzzy drives over here right off camera. But
yeah, I've got all
fine.
kinds of. I've got a box full of drives under my desk. I just found a drive that had a bunch of video on it that I thought was, just lost. And I had been squirreling away video, like public domain video and QuickTime movies of funny stuff. In the old days, that was like YouTube, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I had a whole disk full of funny stuff like that. External hard drive, and I found it in a box the other day. Plugged it in. Sure as hell, everything's still there.
That's great. Little digital archaeology there.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
We really downsized when I retired. I got rid of a lot of stuff. I had a couple of garage sales, and I donated a lot of stuff to my local user group. Hi there. I love my old user group, the CATMAck in Austin. They were just the best. User groups are the best. If you're not a member of a user group, you should be.
Yeah. I do like the fact that because I used to be a member of an Apple user group back in the day, and a lot of that stuff kind of changed between the Apple II and the Macintosh eras and all of that, and then a lot of that people just retired and people kind of lost interest and moved on, especially as internet communities sort of became a thing. So we had talked a little bit about power computing and about kind of joining the team all over there, but what was the general vibe of power computing when you were there? I mean, the ads kind of very much invoked this rebellious, this very rebellious sort of thing. Because I mean, there's one of Sluggo where he's just getting ready to wail on somebody. So was that really? Yeah, Nancy and Sluggo. Yeah,
yeah, we got sued over that one.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. But we were always getting sued over something. It was almost a marketing strategy. And here's a side note. After power computing died, some of the people involved started a new company called notharvard.com. It's like, hey, Harvard, please sue us.
Yeah.
So it was always kind of, when we did the Sluggo ad, we said, gee, we're probably going to get a lot of intellectual property grief over this. And, you know, it's sad to say, but when that happens, if they send you a cease and desist and you obey, you're off the hook.
Yeah.
Okay, we're off the hook.
Yeah.
We'll just do it until they slap our hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all done by Frank Kozik, who was like a very collectible illustrator. When I left Power Computing, I took about 100 posters with me. And for years, I would like just release them slowly on eBay because they were worth 100, 200, 300 bucks a piece.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I had them all over my office. I had the full collection in my office, and I had about 100 spares. And finally, they ran out. But that was a very popular thing we did.
Oh yeah.
At Power Computing, almost as popular as the Tower of Power at the MacWorld in Boston. We rented a bungee crane.
Yeah.
And
you could see that. That's on Computer Chronicles.
Yes, if you bought a system, like you got to jump off the bungee crane dressed up like a Power Tower Pro. Yeah, we were. So the guy that was in charge of marketing, was named Mike Rosenfeld, and we called him, or he called himself, the marketing weasel. And that was, I think, his title. And he basically was all about guerrilla marketing. You know, it's like if we could have had a gorilla inside of Moscone, we'd have had a gorilla. He just was all about the spectacle. He also rented a fleet of Hummers one year and put plastered Power Computing on the side and gave free rides to everybody at MacWorld. They did a lot of crazy marketing stunts, and I was happy to be part of it.
Oh yeah. Well, it
was my kind of marketing. My kind of marketing.
Absolutely. Like, do you really, I mean, since we're kind of talking about that feel and things like that, do you have any fond memories of like product launch stuff or something where it was like a project that finally kind of came together? I mean, do you still own any of those machines? You talked, you got rid of a lot of things, but what's the one you held on to longest?
None. I got rid of all the old, like all of the collectible or memorable old machines that really had no functional purpose or gone. They all went at the garage sale or donated to the user group.
Yeah.
I only have one Mac left. I have a MacBook Air, and I hardly ever use it. I have found in my life the iPhone and iPad are good for about 90% of what I need. Unless I need a real keyboard for serious composing, and I need multiple windows for moving stuff around easily between apps, I don't do it on the Mac. You know, it's like the Mac, it sits there until I need a keyboard and a mouse.
Yeah.
And that's less and less as time goes on.
Sure. My mom, she was like, well, I've got to have this desktop machine. I've got to do this. And I was like, hold the phone. I was like, you don't need a new machine. I got her a ninth generation iPad. And she was like, nope, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
She's like,
my mother-in-law,
text to speech or speech to text, and I'm fine. It's like, perfect.
My mother-in-law has an old, like, Bondi blue iMac. And we got her an iPad, and she has an iPhone. And since then, she rarely turns on the computer. It's like, what do I need it for? I can get my email here. I can get I can surf the internet. I can shop. And I find it the same. When I travel now, it used to be I would never even think of traveling without a laptop. You know, I just would not go out of town without my laptop. Now, I hardly ever take a laptop. It's like unless I anticipate having to do a lot of typing or page layout or anything that requires a mouse and a keyboard.
Right.
I'm not going to take a Mac at all. I've been on a bunch of trips lately. In fact, We went on a 34-day cruise last year, and I did not take a Mac.
Wow.
I can do everything I'm going to need to do while I'm away on my iPad.
Yeah. It's and besides, you want a little bit of a break on something like that for sure. So
It's one more thing to carry, one more thing to keep charged.
Mhm.
It just, it's like, I'm not going to need that.
Yeah.
And I can see in the future where I might not need a desktop machine at all.
Right.
It's like I don't do a lot of serious video editing. And what I do, I could do with LumaFusion on my iPad. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of page layout anymore, but what I do, I could do with Pages on my iPad.
Sure.
I do a newsletter maybe once every year or two. And I do posters for protests.
Yeah.
I could do all that on my iPad. And I love that I can print from my iPad to my Epson color printer. It's like things that I need to print. I used to have to go run to my Mac and print. Not anymore. Everything really prints right from my iDevices.
Yeah. Well,
Life is good. Apple has made my life pretty good.
Mhm.
And people, I actually ran into somebody I worked with at MacUser not too long ago, and they told me they were using a Lenovo something. And I said, why? And she said, I can't afford Apple shit anymore. And I don't get that. It's like, I couldn't live with a Lenovo no matter how cheap it was. I would hate every minute of using it. I don't know. I'm still, I'm not the same kind of Apple fan I was when Steve was running the show.
Mhm.
When Steve was running the show, I was Kool-Aid drinking Apple fanatic. Now,
Oh, I get it.
I'm so invested in the Apple universe. All my stuff lives in the Apple universe. My all of my music is in the cloud now.
Yeah.
All of my video is in the cloud. Everything I do kind of revolves around Apple cloud storage and apps. And there's no way in my lifetime I'm ever gonna not be an Apple user. I can't, so I could save a few bucks next time I buy a laptop.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
Right. Well, I think Apple's done a really good job with the kind of integrating everything together where you've got you start something on your iPhone and you can walk over to your iPad and hand it off, or if you're on an iPad, hand it off to your desktop machine, and all of
Yes.
your media is in one place and all of your files are in one place. So that experience, you can just kind of like go from work to home, back and forth. If you're somebody that's just a consultant or an independent contractor, you can very easily just pick up and go with those things. And like you said, so important, you don't have to take the big hardware with you to get that same experience. So
No, not at all.
Yeah, the
We're
switch
going
from
on
Intel to
a
ARM.
train trip. We're going on a train trip. We're gonna be like, I don't know, 5 days on a train.
Oh yeah.
And I have no intention of taking a Mac. I'm perfectly happy with my iPad. And in fact, I used to say, I don't see a book around here, but people used to say to me, how do you like this whole ebook thing? Isn't it great that you can now get a book and carry it around in your pocket and read it when you want and put it back in your pocket? And I said, yeah, but I kind of like the idea that I can take a book and drop it on the ground and it won't break.
Yeah. They just need bigger pockets. That's the thing.
I like the smell of pages, and there's a lot about physical books that I like.
A
On the other
tactile
hand,
kind of experience.
when I went on this like 34-day cruise, are you familiar with the Libby app?
Yeah.
Okay, so Libby is this. Here, I'll do a little promo for them because they're great. But Libby is this app that lets you access your local library on your iPhone and check out any ebook or video or magazine that they have in their collection. And I'm a big reader. I love to read. I probably read 1 or 2 fiction books a week. But I can't afford to be buying them all at $22 each. And I don't like them enough to buy them all for $22 each. But the Libby app lets you check them out of the library. If it's popular and new, you can put yourself on the wait list. And, in a few weeks, they say, hey, guess what? You can go read the new Stephen King book now or whatever. So when I go traveling, I open Libby and I stock up on a few things I might want to read. And it's just lovely. This device is, that big, and I can take it anywhere. And
Oh, yeah.
It's got every book I've ever wanted to read, plus every book I've ever read, all with me. If I decide, the whim, oh, I want to read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest again.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. I can either check it out with Libby for free, or maybe buy it on the Apple bookstore for $10 or less.
Yeah.
It's just the whole ability to carry your whole music library and your reading library in your pocket has always appealed to me.
Oh, yeah.
And it's pretty much a reality now,
Yeah. Very convenient, that's for sure.
And you don't need the storage. You don't need 12 trillion terabytes of storage, because we have fast internet now almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can just grab what you need when you need it.
All true.
I'm very positive on technology.
I think you would have to be, based on your career, for sure.
Yeah, but I just see it as getting better and better and better. It's gotten a lot better. Remember, when I started in 1984, typesetting on a Mac wasn't even a thing. It's
Sure.
like nobody even heard of desktop publishing.
Mhm.
And now, really, pretty much everything is done that way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What happened to Quark? Quark Express was like, they owned the publishing business, and they seem to have evaporated. I don't know.
Well, I think it's kind of one of those things where you had other products and stuff that kind of came on the scene that eroded market space. And
InDesign?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they just
I've
announced
never
this
been a
week
huge
Microsoft
fan of
Publisher is gone.
Microsoft Publisher is gone?
Yeah, that's it.
Wait, did it ever run on a Mac?
No, but it was, again, it's Harvard Graphics. They're getting rid of Harvard Graphics.
Well, we had Mac Paint.
Yeah.
We had Mac Paint, we had Photoshop, we had PageMaker. I remember I couldn't afford PageMaker in the beginning, so I bought Ready, Set, Go.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some people will remember that, but
no, I do.
That was the alternative at the time.
Mm-hmm.
$99 versus $5.99 or $4.99.
Yeah.
Well,
I will tell you. Actually,
what else you got?
Well, I've got some good stuff. I've got one last question that's basically about power computing, and then we'll just talk about the Dummies books. So
okay.
Let me record the time. Back to power computing. Okay, so while you were at power computing, were there any projects or that were basically on the cups of being released, but just never made it out the door?
Oh, yes. So the whole reason power computing folded was that we had submitted to Apple, I believe, a plan to create a notebook that would have been twice as energy efficient and twice as fast as Apple.
Wow.
For half the price. So we had to submit, and the way our contract worked was we had to submit a design to Apple, and they had to approve it before we could put it into production. So we had this design in the lab, and it was going to be our Hail Mary. It was going to be what put us over the top to go public. You know, a PowerBook 100 for half the price, whatever the price was. And Apple knew this. And so in the beginning, they withheld the approvals, so we couldn't begin production. Then they began negotiations to buy us. So the power computing notebook never actually made it into production. I don't even know if we had prototypes. We had blueprints and sketches, and we were ready to move forward with a inexpensive laptop.
Wow.
And that was when Apple made their move. So part of it was they wanted our order processing back end, which I think they were a little surprised to find out was written in FileMaker Pro. But just the same, that was their big thing. But their little thing was, oh, if these guys ever get to the point where they release this laptop for half the price of ours, we're effed. So,
yeah, I could definitely see that. So that would have been really exciting.
Yeah. And things move very quickly from them. Do you remember the power computing ad? Apple Computer has taken our license with a driver's license.
Yeah.
Apple has canceled our license.
Well, it's but I mean, you in the pre-show, you were telling me a little bit about Apple, the buyout, and shutting down power computing. I am sure that was a big blow to the company, because you guys were producing all of this amazing stuff and completely undercutting Apple. So in their interest, it made sense to bring you guys kind of underneath them. But
absolutely, we did not do what we were supposed to do. What we were supposed to do was produce inexpensive Apple clones at the low end to compete basically with what used to be called Performa, right? The low end market. So we were supposed to take over that piece. But when it came down to it, we were much better at taking over the high end. So we built machines with 7 slots in them when Apple had 5. We built machines with faster processors and more RAM capability.
Well, back in the day, for sure.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
Apple killed us,
Yeah. Well, I will tell you.
And I don't blame them, because we'd have killed them.
Yeah, back in the 90s, for sure, there were a lot of that was my days that I was a consultant, and I worked for a lot of law firms and would basically go in and do all their support. And there was a time where if somebody was holding on to that Classic 2 for some reason, when that came off the desk, everything that was bought was a power computing machine, just because Apple couldn't compete on price or performance. And you could buy those machines. They were just cheaper and better. And
you could open them up and fix them.
Yes.
Right.
Open them up. From my point of view, it was really good. I did not have to rely on kind of that secondary channel stuff.
That closed
Apple stuff.
system. Yeah. Well, Apple made their choice. The choice from Apple was, we're going to go with closed systems and proprietary connectors, and we're going to try to, keep all the money in the Apple vault. And it wasn't a great idea, especially while IBM was not doing that. It's like there were a lot of components out there that would work in a Mac, and we just kind of took advantage of the fact that a lot of the stuff inside a Mac is very generic. Power supply, video card, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. It's Mitsumi floppies and things like that. You weren't having to buy the Sony floppies. Just get the GCR equivalent from these other like backup distributors. And yeah, I get it for sure. But
We were good too. I'd say
yes.
Power Computing was very agile and adept at negotiating and figuring out what to do for next year. And
Mhm.
gosh, if we had survived, I might be a billionaire. No regrets. I have no regrets. I had a great career. It was really fun. I got to go to MacWorld Expo a lot of times. I had a
Mhm.
great band called the MacWorld Expo All Stars. Um, we had a lot of fun, and really, in the long run, I don't think I'd have done anything differently. I, I'm still a Mac fan. I'm still an Apple fan. I'm still unlikely to ever switch to another operating system for, running my life.
Well, it's good to hear that you've kind of stayed in the ecosystem, if nothing else. So, I mean, you've made so many contributions to to the literature and to the kind of the culture of Macintosh and all of that. So, I for sure thank you, because again, if it wasn't for these books, and if it wasn't for seeing you on things like Computer Chronicles and things like that, it would be very easy at that time in Apple's history to kind of lose hope and to just become
Yes, and
another
I
PC
was
user.
always a cheerleader. I was always a cheerleader. Only because for me it would have been just horrible to think about switching.
Mhm.
As far as that goes, I was a big Apple fan because I could see how horrible it would be for me to have to like switch to PC, to Windows, or Android, or Android. Yeah, really. All that stuff. Not in my wheelhouse.
Understood. Hey, let's take a couple minutes. Let's talk about the Dummies books. I again, that was kind of one of those big things where after writing some of these other books and like these history and these things, kind of getting people excited about Apple culture, you shifted into the Dummy series to kind of help people.
Mainstream publishing. Let's
Yes.
call it mainstream publishing. Well, so here's the thing. David Pogue wrote Macs for Dummies and several other Dummies books before I started. And bless his heart, he decided to start his own publishing venture. And that was something called The Missing Manual. Um, and that left an opening over at the Dummies Company for somebody to write the Apple, some of the Apple titles. And I was I was I was never really friends with David. Um, and I don't think he recommended me, but the Dummies people came to me and said, "Would you like to take over David's beat?" Which was Macs for Dummies and Mac OS
Mhm.
for Dummies and etc. And I said, "Yeah, sure." So that was that. Um, it was a great platform for many years, but our relationship uh, started to go south when they, Wiley Publishing, began to prefer uh, work for hire arrangements, which, if you're a writer, is like saying, we want you to drink poison. It's like they said, we want you to do the rest of your contracts from now on are going to be as work for hire, and you'll make more money. Not true. But the whole concept of no longer being able to negotiate for royalties, if something was a big hit, I would make no more money than if it was a flop. They would offer me X amount of money to write a book, and that was it. Take it or leave it. And that was the year I quit. I said, you know what? You can get cheaper people than me to write your books for you, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
So I'm going to gracefully exit the stage.
Yeah.
Um, and it turns out I was absolutely right. The books have become really crappy. Most of the talented people I knew at Wiley Publishing have been fired.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to milk it, squeeze as much out as they can before it dies, and it will die.
Yeah.
Today's people, people used to say to me, so what happened to the publishing business? And the answer is YouTube.
Yeah.
I ask my kids, where do you go to learn, how to use this feature on your Mac or this app? YouTube. It's free.
Yeah.
And so I can't compete with that. And I have no desire. I managed to get out just in time. I really don't follow technology much anymore and don't spend a lot of time reading about it. I don't watch podcasts about it. I don't listen to podcasts about it. Apple took me off their press list, so I don't get press releases. I'm happy. I'm beyond it now, and it's not fun like it used to be. When I was doing it, it was fun. And the people were fun, and the people at Apple were fun, and it was all, we were breaking new ground. We were doing stuff that had never been done before, and now it just all seems like just going through the motions. And so I'm lucky, I managed to get out while I was still young enough to enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's one of those things. You talked about where you've had this really great career with the publishing, working with power computing, basically being one of those tastemakers in the Mac community. What is it like dealing with that legacy and kind of your role in Macintosh history? Is there a term like, because
No.
people talk about Steves and things like that. This
You are the first person in 2 years to give a shit.
I don't know that's true. No,
I'm serious.
You're tough to get a hold of.
Well, I've made it a point to drop out. It's like I'm done. I'm done working. I don't need to be in touch with anybody about this. I don't need to do any more interviews. I'm not selling anything. I purposely dropped out of the Mac Unisphere, or whatever you call it, sphere, the Mac sphere, the Macosphere. But I purposely dropped out because I'm done. What do I do now? I ski, I travel, I eat. I'm a big eater. It's like now I have time to go other places and eat fine cuisine in foreign cities. And really, it's nice not to have a weekly column. It's not that much work, but it's something that weighs on you all week. It's like every week, on Wednesday at 4 p.m., if you don't have something written 500 words, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So it's nice not having that. And I don't know, my advice to everybody out there is retire as early as you can. Nobody ever on their deathbed said, I wish I had worked more hours. So that's my thing.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good place to end it. I can't thank you enough, because you helped me keep the faith at a time when it was really tough to go up against like your PC friends and stuff and say, that, hey, there is still a lot of life in this thing if you just gave it a chance. So I'm glad to hear that you can at least look back on it fondly.
I'm glad I could do that, because that's the reason I was in it. Was
absolutely
to convince people like you to, you're not doing the wrong thing by sticking with Apple.
Bob LeVitus, Dr. Macintosh, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks. My pleasure.
In addition to the Radius System 100, Apple has also licensed the Mac OS to two other companies, Power Computing and Daystar Digital. Here to show us the new Power 100 is Bob LeVitus. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks.
All right, we've got your Power 100 here. It's not turned on, nothing on the screen because, like, what's to see? It's a
Right.
Mac, right? It's
Just
gonna
like a Mac.
It's going to look like a Macintosh.
Absolutely.
The box doesn't obviously look like a Macintosh, so let me ask you to pop the lid, and let's talk about what's inside here and how it's different and how it's the same as an Apple Mac. And let me angle this up here so our cameras can get a good shot of it, and give us a little kind of guided tour of what's inside here,
Okay,
Bob.
let's start over here. This is an Apple ROM. This is a cache sim. That's the CPU, a PowerPC 601 running at 100 megahertz. All the little gray guys on there are the Apple custom ASICs. There's 16 of them. These are RAM sims. We have 8 RAM sim slots over here, making expansion very easy. This is our I/O card. This,
Now, this is different from what we'd see in a Mac, obviously.
Yes. On a Power Mac 8100, all this circuitry is on the motherboard. And so the difference is we've moved it to the daughter card, makes it easier for us to make changes to it over time.
And it also lets you squeeze this inside this AT box, which is part of the design.
Absolutely. I forgot about that.
Okay.
Good point. And over here we have 3 new bus slots. And finally, this is the high-performance video card. The high-performance video is another piece that's also on the Apple motherboard. We've moved it to the daughter card. We've added one little feature. This card offers a Macintosh and a VGA video port.
Great. All right, now you have another nice design feature here, and show us that one.
Yes, our engineers really like this one. This is makes it very easy to add a second internal disk drive. You just unscrew one screw, open the hinge like this, put the drive in, snap it back into place. We've designed the system to be very easy to work inside, very open.
So you've really taken the economics of a PC AT design, really, and put Macintosh stuff inside.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're driving the price of Mac OS systems down by using proven PC technology and cases and power supplies.
The issue for a user is, as it was with PC compatibles way back when, is it really 100% compatible with an Apple Macintosh, and can I run all my software on this?
Absolutely. Everything that runs on a Power Mac 8100 is guaranteed to run on this system. Apple certifies our systems before we're able to ship them. Apple says this is really compatible, so you can be very comfortable that it is.
All right, when I buy the Power 100, what do I get?
Well, you get the system itself. Base system is $16.99, and that's an 8540 configuration. We also offer, CD-ROM upgrade.
Yeah, the software bundle comes with it.
Yes, software bundle, $900 worth of software, including ClarisWorks, now up to date, now Contact, FWB hard disk toolkit, which improves the performance of our hard disks, FWB's CD-ROM toolkit, which gives us a little bit better CD-ROM performance, 250 fonts, soft Windows demo, that's a 90-day trial kit, and the keyboard.
I don't have to pay extra for the keyboard.
No, you don't have to pay extra for the keyboard.
Isn't competition wonderful?